It really took a very interesting discussion to come up with this topic on from niche to necessary. And this is in a way that you may feel that it is in a way contradicting with the word minor crops, meaning minor, not really very important. And therefore, you can choose to give it a small space within your agricultural arena or within your planning and not making it a very important space. And that's how we thought about this topic of from being a small, maybe not very important or not really taken care of space, and yet it's a very necessary, important space to be taken care of. So my name is Mellon Kabole, as introduced. I'm the Africa Regional Manager for the Minor Use Foundation. And in the next 40 minutes, I'll just take you through what we do, what challenges the specialty crops go through, and how we can be able to work together to make sure that productivity is increased and all the associated benefits of promoting specialty crops. So the Minor Use Foundation is a non-governmental organization, non-profit, that works with a vision that it wants fruits, vegetables, nuts, and spices, which are basically specialty crops, to be plentiful and affordable to everyone. And we want to do this through supporting and working together, collaborating, partnering with all stakeholders so that we can have greater agricultural biodiversity. We can reduce food waste, improve global nutritional outcomes, and being able to increase the supply of these specialty crops. So we have put all of these desires into a strategic plan that has 4 goals, where we want to amplify international attention and investment in specialty crops. We also want to promote a regenerative approach to agriculture so that we can increase biodiversity. We want to catalyze public-private partnerships so that we can facilitate the trade in specialty crops. And finally, we want to facilitate smallholder uptake of safe crop protection technology. So I will be able to tell you how we do this in slides to come. But before that, we need to understand what a minor crop is or what minor use is, because you'll hear me talk about it severally in this presentation. So a minor crop is one that is grown on limited acreage with small production volume. So it is a crop that you can find it grown very limited space and has a very small production volume. And a minor use is a pesticide. It refers to either its application on such crops or to localize or infrequent uses on major crops. So you may find a pest that is affecting a major crop, but probably it is not found to be so significant in how much it is in affecting the crop, and therefore the minor use of that pesticide that would have managed that pest is what we are also concerned with. And each country, each government has a tailored way of considering the production area, the economic value, dietary or trade importance of these crops. And therefore, it means that minor crops would be different from one country to another, depending on what criteria each country would want to set. So taking me to the next slide is, do we really produce enough specialty crops? When you look at the graphics that we have there, you may find that on the left, the production by volume of cereals is at 50%. And you look at vegetables, fruits coming at 10%, and maybe other crops that may be nuts and the like. So it means that you would find that production of specialty crops, which are also minor crops, is lesser than cereal crops. But when you look at by value on the right graphic, you will find that the fruits and vegetables are actually almost competing equally with the cereals, meaning that in as much as they are literally produced in small volumes, their value by the end of the production cycle is higher or more competitive as compared to the major cereals. But these crops are still facing a lot of challenges. There's a lot of reduced support, or there's less support from the agrochemical industry or from the research institutions and associated species in providing support to the minor crops or specialty crops. And this would lead to limited crop protection options or very limited research opportunities, making it difficult to be able to find solutions to the challenges that these crops would be encountering. And we have very limited regulatory systems relating to pesticides that are supporting the specialty crops. And you find most of the regulatory systems are geared towards the major crops, the cereals and the like. And the specialty crops really struggle in getting their regulatory approvals done in a timely manner to be able to support availability of crop protection solutions. And then we have a lack of established international MRLs. We have very limited MRLs or missing maximum residue levels, which is a significant barrier to trade when exchanging specialty crops between countries and regions. So because of those challenges, we have low production, because with limited pest management options, it means that economic plant pests would definitely affect the production of specialty crops. And where we have no pest control registered for the specific pest in the specific crop, we tend to have off-label use, meaning a farmer would decide to just pick a pesticide that has a pest that is probably in the family or the same name, but it was not tested correctly to determine the good agricultural practices and associated decisions that will cause it to be registered to that specific product or that product or a molecule crop combination. So a lack of good agricultural practices is making farmers not being able to determine when should I harvest my crop after I use this pesticide, which in the first place is probably not registered to that specialty crop. And these challenges is leading to non-compliance at national levels and also international levels, making it challenging to maintain markets and also to be able to expand them, because you have frequent non-compliance notices given to your country. So this brings me now to the minor use foundation operations. We have a number of operations in different regions in the whole globe. And this map just clearly gives you where our work is. And you find that if I focus on Africa, we have Kenya having a staff, who is myself, and then we have Ghana and Senegal, who are doing some of the projects that we have relating to generating MRL data. We also have a presence in Asia. Our staff is in Asia. We have Latin America. We have also presence in other parts of the countries of the world where we receive support. We have collaboration with donors and active projects that are going on there. So how do we intervene for the challenges that I have mentioned in a previous slide? We focus on capacity building, research and development, and policy and advocacy. And I'll just pick one or two of each of the areas where, under capacity building, we target to build capacity on generating data through or following good laboratory practices. And this is both at the field and the laboratory level. We also support on capacity building of facilities within the countries that we are working with, so that they can be able to generate good quality data. Under research and development, we support in data generation for MRL establishment. I will be able to talk about how that happens. Then on data extrapolations, crop grouping, efficacy studies, those are technical terms that are definitely used to support and increase access to crop protection solutions within the specialty crops or specialty area. Then under policy and advocacy, we work towards risk-based approaches for crop protection regulation, trade facilitation. We want to have minor programs that are supporting risk-based pesticide monitoring programs, or giving capacity to countries so that they can be able to increase access to pest control solutions and at the same time reduce the challenges affecting specialty crops. So I talked about MRL data generation, and you can see that we have the countries that the Minor Use Foundation is working on. So it identifies crops depending on need and very many technical factors coming to play. And the Minor Use Foundation supports and works with these countries technically to be able to generate data that will go to the joint meeting for pesticide residue, eventually to the Codex Commission for Pesticide Residue, Codex Committee for Pesticide Residue, and finally be able to culminate into a maximum residue level. And this is done through forming national study teams. I talked about Ghana, Kenya, and Senegal. So they have national study teams who are taught on how GLP field and laboratory practices should be undertaken. And then after that, they develop protocols that they use to undertake the field and lab analysis or trials and analysis in these countries. The reports are assessed from these countries, and the final report is submitted to JMPR, which is under the FAO. This whole process is supervised by highly technical expertise who are within the Minor Use Foundation work area. So far, we have been able to do 17 submissions in 2024. And we are in the process of working on other submissions. And we want to be able to also maximize on extrapolation of data, meaning do we have existing data that can be able to be matched and extrapolated to the ones or the crops that do not have MRLs, and the science to relate them to eventually be able to say that they are they can be compared, and therefore they can be able to share the MRLs. That whole process is done in a scientific manner, and the requirements and guidelines are provided by the Codex Alimentarius Commission. Now, next slide is about another effort that we have on building and training a network of experts. And we look at this in 5 different areas. One, technology. We want to understand that do we have any new technologies or crop protection options that can be able to be made available and adopted and supported to different countries so that they can be able to use it. So we look at, let's say, Asia, do they have a solution to a challenge that is in Africa? And how can we be able to work with the crop protection industry in Africa, plus the pesticide registration official institutions in Africa, to make sure that this solution is also available to the African countries, and it's also available to the specialty crops farmers, that they can be able to now produce in a safe and effective way. Then we also look at engagement, and we want to increase our connections and engagement with growers around the world. It is them who know what is actually affecting them. It is them who know what is the pest or disease that is causing the most challenge, and they are actually missing out on the solution to it. So our continuous engagement with all the stakeholders is a very core component in our operation. We work with strengthening Codex. It's a core area in our operation, and by supporting the JMPR and the CCPR in providing information and data through that is generated from a scientific process, we are bridging that gap of lack of MRL or the missing MRLs, and therefore making it easier to trade internationally in the same space. The importance of minor uses through minor use programs is a space that we are seeking support politically and economically, working together with governments, working together with donors, so that we can be able to come together with a structured way of responding to minor use challenges, so that these countries can on their own be able to develop minor use programs that will continuously be able to improve that space and increase support and productivity of specialty crops. We work on increasing impact, and here we are looking at environmental, social, economic indicators that will be able to show that our interventions have actually created a positive change in the specialty crops industry. So this brings me to what we have been doing since January this year, which I would call the minor use priority setting. And in the effort to find out what are the pressing needs that minor use crop protection industry is facing, we sent requests and a call for nominations to the entire world and asked the stakeholders stemming from farmers, researchers, regulators, and donors to tell us what are the key challenges that they are going through relating to production of minor crops. And this was very strategic with data used to be able to identify the most critical needs at global level and also now coming down to the regional level. And it is bringing together multiple stakeholders, therefore increasing our network and ability to be able to collaborate and partner in finding solutions in this space. And then we look at supporting minor use pesticide registration. Whenever we find a solution, we want to find out, can all the regions in the world be able to access this challenge, this solution, and eventually we will be able to have a harmonized way of looking at solutions, which include generating MRLs at the international level. So in January, February, we had the nominations window. Then we went to review the data and analyze between February and March. Analysis is still going on, but that was the initial review. Then we consulted the industry between March and May, telling them, these are the nominations that we have received. Do you think you have solutions? Can you be able to give us information on solutions you have available within your production lines, or are available in one country or are missing in another, so that we can be able to match them and see how best we can combine them. So between May and July, we have been establishing priority projects. And now between July and December, which is part of what we are going through and what we will be doing sometime later this month, is to have events where we will have validation of the results that we have at global and regional level. The call was looking at 6 different areas. Does the industry need a new solution? Do they need a Codex MRL? Do they need a periodic review, which means an MRL was set and requires to be reviewed? And then are there technology gaps? Do they need an import MRL? Or is it a special project that they feel is not factored in these 5 areas that is very important within the specialty crops? So we received a lot of nominations, more than 5,000. And by region, you can see where Africa is. We had 21.6% of the total. And by category, new solution, that means farmers are actually needing solutions to their challenges, had 43.6%. Local registration, meaning in as much as maybe the product is available elsewhere or it could not be there, but there's maybe a molecule that has not been really worked on, the countries needed those solutions at the local level or at the national level. Then an import MRL or Codex MRL took 26.7% and periodic review 15.8% with 3% for special project. So the results that we have had so far, we received 350 nominations for Codex MRLs because that's the core of what would be able to facilitate international trade. And we looked through them and we realized that 50 already had Codex MRLs, meaning they probably were not really well looked at the time of nominations, or 70 of them were removed or exempt or never reviewed. And therefore, the balance is what we would be able to factor in when doing further evaluation on the same. So our analysis actually looked at very many aspects at the 5,000 nominations that we received. We looked at, do we have nominations that are falling under the Codex crop group classification? And in such, Codex has put together a system where they are putting similar botanically, physiologically related crops and identifying a representative crop that once you're able to do efficacy or MRL on that specific representative crop, then you can be able to extrapolate that MRL or that efficacy decision on the entire group. We also looked at, do we have pests and diseases that were identified to be top within each of the regions? We also checked, do we have crop group and pest disease? So we looked at different ways, and we actually played around with all that data to find out what is the best way we can be able to scientifically determine that these are the global priorities. The top pests and diseases that were requested were thrips. If you can see, it was the highest with about 45 requests. Then we had lepidopterans, we have fruit flies, anthracnose, phytophthora. So it was a mix of pests and diseases affecting different types of crops. And when we look at the top groups as per the Codex crop grouping, you find the fruiting vegetable, except the cucurbits had the highest nominations, followed by the tropical fruit, the inedible, and then the berry fruit, until the cereals had almost 1 or 2 nominations. So just a snapshot of how African nominations were. You can see that anthracnose had mentioned for avocado, mango, peppers, chili, and this does not reflect how many times. It only shows, for example, under anthracnose, we had mango mentioned, peppers mentioned, avocado. For aphids, there was African nightshade, African nut, amaranth, sesame. Then there was a false codling moth, which was mentioned for avocado as a challenge in macadamia nut, pepper, chili pepper, and sweet pepper. Then we also had bacteria. You can see the bacterial wilt, African nightshade, arrowroots, leaves, this asparagus, celery, guava, maize, tomato, fusarium as well. Then thrips, we had avocado, basil, sweet and chili peppers, and leaf miners, we had cashew nut, cherry tomato, and coriander. Then when we look at the crop vis-a-vis the pests under each, you can see tomato and cherry tomato, which sometimes is looked at similar times. We had bacterial spot, bacterial wilt, southern blight, tomato leaf miner, white fly. For cherry tomato, we even had nematodes and viruses. Avocado, we had false codling moth, avocado Persian mites, peppers. So all of this is what was received as challenges affecting the Africa region and the specialty crops. And when we looked at all of this data, we first of all had to do global determination of priorities. And looking at the slide where I showed you the different factors that we looked at, we had to tier these projects into tier 1 and tier 2, and looking at the different pests and diseases. And in tier 1, these are the projects that we are actively looking into so that we can be able to generate MRLs and minor use programs relating to them. And under tier 2, these are the programs that we are looking at, focusing on the supporting mechanisms like MRL, data extrapolation, crop grouping, and technological gaps to be able to support them, making sure that they are able to receive the solutions that they are intended to have. So we still have a lot of work to do in terms of when you determine an MRL to focus on, you have to look at very many things. When you want to determine solutions and whether you should have a registration to be done for a product, you have to look at a number of things. Some of them including global registrations. Do we have any registrations for that specific pest and disease and crop combination? Do we have any new solutions under the pipeline being researched about? Do we have any Codex MRL coverage or opportunities looking at the different mechanisms for increasing registration and like extrapolation and crop grouping? Do we have periodic reviews? Likely, because the joint meeting for pesticide residue has a cycle that they follow, a schedule that you must be able to work within that cycle for you to be able to have your agenda responded to in the following or subsequent meetings. Do we have domestic MRL set? Do we have missing codex MRLs and missing import MRLs? And is there data available? So a number of factors being looked at, but nevertheless, we will still be able to support in as much as all the technical matters taken into consideration to make sure that we have some of these aspects taken all through and highly optimized so that the codex MRLs are realized at the end of the process. And maybe the places where we have no solutions, we can be able to find out, do we have solutions or alternatives that we can be able to share across regions? Sometimes we are, in some of these situations, we are also looking at having individual market solutions where you find we have one country trading with the other, needing to have very tailored solutions in terms of generating import MRLs or MRLs that would be able to allow them to trade. And therefore, here we are working with the industry to see how they can be able to support us. And then we check and see the conventional and biological methods that are there. Are they really suitable? And do we really need to generate data relating to them? And how can we make sure we align to the requirements of the national registration authorities and even regional registration authorities that are within the Regional Economic Commission to make sure that these solutions are available to the local farmers and that they can be able to grow their specialty crops in a comfortable and productive manner. So that takes me now towards the end of my presentation, where I want to ask, what are the next steps for Africa? And we are in the tail end of evaluating the global priorities versus the Africa priorities, because while we identified global priorities for the Minor Use Foundation, we come to realize that we have unique challenges that the Africa region would be facing that are not comparable to the other regions, with very many factors, including the environment, the climate, and maybe access to these solutions, maybe the way the industry has been well streamlined to work together to make sure that solutions are available. So we are in the tail end of determining the Africa regional priorities. And I would like to really invite you on 25th of November. We shall be sending a call. Watch out on our LinkedIn, on our Facebook, and our website. We shall have a call for 25th of November, where the discussion relating to the challenges affecting Africa will be discussed, and identification of priorities will also be done within that webinar. And once we have these priorities, we intend to work with each one of you, with all our stakeholders, who are including the governments, the crop protection industry, the researchers, the academia, to just make sure that we work together, we collaborate, so that the solutions that we have, looking at the expertise that all of us have, the Minor Use Foundation and all of these stakeholders, we can be able to come together and make viable projects or minor use programs that will, in the next year, not only be able to solve global Minor Use Foundation priorities, but narrow down to make sure that the African regional priorities are well taken care of. While that is done, we are working towards an early 2026 in-person validation. And in this validation session, we'll be able to agree in principle and basing on data, basing on science, that the identified challenges are the true reflection of what Africa is facing, and we can be able to chart way forward on how best we can be able to solve them. I would like to really appreciate that the IGCEB, together with its community, found it important that the Minor Use Foundation would have this session. And it's really a privilege that we can be able to work together and be able to share in finding solutions for the African and the global farmers. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.